This 2015 VF Commodore was extremely neglected. Now I'm going to be throwing it in the scrap. I bought a new shell. I'm going to put all these parts into that shell. So if this interests you, stick around, watch the build. Now you may be thinking it doesn't look all that bad from there. Well, they aren't the original panels off the car. It is a 2015 SSV. The interior is trashed. The left-hand side of the car is panel damaged. So it's just not worth repairing. So I purchased a 2015 Calais from Pickles Auctions, and that is going to be the donor car. So we'll give you a little bit of a look over both cars. There is an engine in this one. That'll be the engine that's going into the Calais, along with all these parts. Now the damage to the original SSV is all of this. Rear quarter, the car needs a full respray, the interior is trashed. So it's just not worth repairing. It is a clear title car. It's never on the wobber, but even still, it's just not worth it. Let's see how trashed this thing is inside. It's been completely neglected. And here is the Calais. I picked this up from the auctions. I think it cost me 2.2 plus fees. This was the only damage in the front here. I put a lower control arm in it and put the spare wheel on it. Drove it home 450 Ks, not an issue. It's quite a clean car. It's been sitting outside for a few months, but interior wise, everything's nice. I am going to respray the entire car anyway in the original peacock green. And to go with that, we have, like I said, the full VF GDS body kit. We have the spoiler up here. I'll be using these side skirts because SSV and HSV are the same. Same as the bonnet, they're the same, fenders are the same, but I will be putting all of this onto the Calais, and I also have the rear bumper as well. Now we'll be doing all of this on the floor. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but it's nothing I haven't done before. So I think in this episode, what we'll do is pull the engine and gearbox out of the Calais. It is running, I drove it in here yesterday, and we'll also pull the front end of the car as well. It'll make it a lot easier for myself, and I need to pull these panels off anyway. So let's get into it. So I think first up, we're going to jack this thing up, put it on some stands, and begin to pull the front end off, rad support, and give me a lot of room to pull the engine and box out. Okay, I'm just going to start off by pulling off this front bumper. We've got a combination of Torx bits and 10mm bolts. Still good, I can probably sell this. I'll put that aside. Now I'm just going to go ahead and get these wheels out of the way so I can get to the inner guard bolts on the driver's side. Okay, now we can access all these inner guard bolts here, get that out of the way so we can continue pulling the bumper off. Of course they're a different size. One bumper. Okay, front bumper is off. Now we have exposed a little bit more damage. The rad support here is missing, so I'm going to need a new rad support by the looks. I'll continue on pulling the front end off. I want to check the chassis rails and see if there's any more damage that I haven't been able to see. There is a little bit here that's bent, and also this is pushed back just by the airbox pushing back into it. So just want to check, make sure there's no other damage I haven't seen, and we will continue on from there. One headlight. I thought this headlight was going to be salvageable, but it has broken off the bottom tag here, so unfortunately this is going to have to go in the bin. The problem I have is because this Rio bar is bent, I can't access the bolts, so I'm going to have to cut it out with the grinder to be able to access the bolts and pull it off. The one good thing about these Newer Holdens is everything is so modular, so the entire front harness will stay with the rad support when it comes off. You basically just got the fuse box in the engine bay, this plug here, a couple of earth cables, fans, another plug just down here, and the entire harness will stay with the rad support. Trying to do this one-handed here. A little bit of a pain. No, I'm not going to be able to do it. Okay, now we have a lot more access to the front end. We can inspect it a little bit more. I have noticed a little bit of a bend around here, nothing major. Be able to sort that out. Probably just see it there. Doesn't appear to be any kinks in the rail, but I'll have to inspect it a little bit further. All right, I'm going to continue on, get this air condenser out, degas it, pull the radiator out, keep soldering on. Well, that's helpful. I'm not going to have to degas this because I've just put the gauges on and there is no gas in there. So it's kind of a win, but at the same time there's obviously a leak in the system I'm going to have to find when I put this thing back together. Now once again, these radiators are also pretty modular. Condenser, fans, everything will stay on there. So we just want to undo the top and bottom radiator hose clamps, top aircon line, the discharge line down here as well, and fans are already unplugged, so it'll just lift out from there. We do also have the transmission lines on the bottom, and we can actually access them just here. Just pull the Jesus clips out and the whole thing will just come out. Okay, now we are left with the Jesus clips for the transmission lines, so we basically just slide this little collar off, and there is a little clip under here you want to take out and try not to lose, and then the line will just pop off. Now I call these the Jesus clips because, well, you can never find them. They are only a little C-clip, but if you do lose one when you're doing a motor swap or something, it's pretty painful because it's usually the last piece of the puzzle, and then you have to go and try and find one at a wrecker or genuine parts. It's always good practice just to put them back into the lines so that they do not go missing. Okay, now we have the front end off, we got the radiator out, the engine is exposed. We can begin to start pulling this motor out. So I'm going to start unplugging it, pull out all of the ECU wiring, keep all the harness with the engine and pull it all out as one. Gearbox as well will stay on the engine. Just disconnect the prop shaft and the gear selector. So I think I'll start off here at the ECM, start pulling this off, also pull out the other connector from the fuse box that goes to the engine harness so I can keep that all with the motor. We just have these little safety clips, just want to pop them out and then press in here and pull like that. There we go, it's one. Now this ECM I have to change as well, it's not compatible with the LS engine. Kind of don't want to be disturbing the paint on this nut, so I think I'll pull it off on the engine side. It is a lot harder, but yeah, I like everything to be untouched. The other thing I'm going to need to change is the fuel lines potentially, because these are a 5/16, I believe, and they are in a different spot. On an LS engine they're at the back, and on the 6s they're over here, so I'm going to have to change them, or I'll just end up running some dash 8 braid. But for now we'll get these fuel lines off. You just need a little tool like this, get them from Super Cheap. They slide over the fuel line and you want to push upwards to unclip it and then simply pull the line off. They can be a little bit of a pain sometimes. You also have to make sure you have the right size for the hose. There we go. And that is a 5/16 hose off. And then we just have the purge here. This basically purges the fuel vapors back to the fuel tank from the intake manifold. I'm not going to need this, so I don't need to worry about that clip I just dropped. Another clip at the back here. There we go. Okay. I think, I may be wrong. It's been a while since I've looked at a Commodore, to be honest. This may be the 5/16 and that may actually be 3/8. I'll have to check. But usually on a 6, the fuel line is always smaller. And yeah, on an LS they're a 3/8. So we'll check that out. Now within a very short period of time, the engine is almost ready to come out. These things are so basic. We have all the ECM unplugged and attached to the engine. All of the wiring along here is also folded back on the engine, unplugged. We have the earth off here. We have the heater hoses here off. We also have the booster hose off. Fuel lines, everything there is ready to come off. Pulled the alternator positive off as well. And then on this side, we just have the suction hose for the aircon. Pulled that off, that's sitting here. We had the positive that runs underneath the engine to the alternator, comes up to here. That's also pulled off. So now it is pretty well ready to lift out. We just need to undo the engine mounts, undo the exhaust, and undo the transmission side of things. So we'll jump under the car and do that. We just got to disconnect the exhaust. Both engine mount bolts, one there, one over here, and then a couple of O2 sensors. And then moving back, we got the tail shaft bolts here and just the gearbox cross member. And then we should be pretty well ready to lift this thing out. So I'll go ahead and get these out now. Okay, so the engine mount bolts, the nuts are 18mm. Use a 1/2 inch rattle gun to undo those. And then moving back to the cross member, they are 15mm, but I think we'll leave them for a sec. Focus on getting these prop shaft bolts out. Usually what you would do is you'd have the exhaust, if the car was on hoist, you'd have the exhaust off and then you can just get a rattle gun onto these prop shaft bolts, but unfortunately for me, that is not the case. Try and get a bit of light up there. You've got to take the exhaust off, get that out of the way. Now this exhaust is going to be a little bit of a mission on the ground. We want to undo the O2 sensors, just like that. That's all ready to go. Now, time to move towards the back of the vehicle. We have this plate. We'll pull that off. They are 15mm from memory. Now it's starting to get a little bit tight. I have the car jacked up on stands, but even then it's a little bit tight. Okay, so now that we have the exhaust unbolted, we just have these rubbers here and pull them off, and then I'll pull the exhaust forwards and that will pull the exhaust out of the rear rubbers, and that should be enough to get it off. Alright, there we have the exhaust is off. Now I can't get it out between the stands without pulling one of the mufflers off, so I'm going to go ahead and do that and slide the exhaust out of the way. Okay, next up is to pull this heat shield off so I can access the center bearing, and I'll pull the whole shaft out. Put these bolts back into the floor so I don't lose them. And this car is pretty damn clean underneath. It doesn't look like it's ever seen a gravel road before. It's usually the case with the Calais and the Caprices because they're always charter cars, so they just cruise around the city. But it's definitely a bit of a bonus having such a clean shell. Okay, now I'm going to pull out the center bearing, two 13mm bolts. Okay, we're getting pretty close now. We've got pretty well everything off. We just got the cross member to go now, so I'm about to buzz these off. And then we can pretty well lift the modem box out, I think. Should be all ready to go. The trans harness and everything all stays with the engine. The exhaust, cat converters, they all stay as well. So yeah, I'll get this unbolted and we'll start lifting her out. Now you don't have to support these when you undo them, they're not going to go anywhere. Sitting on the engine mounts, so completely fine to just buzz these off and let it hang down. Well, there you go. It turns out the transmission mount was actually broken. Must have happened in the accident, but yeah, that is not supposed to fall off like that. It's supposed to be attached up here. So that's what happens, I guess. You crash your car. Maybe the engine mounts are similar. It's funny though, I drove this thing 450 k's with no issues. Didn't feel no vibrations or anything, so must have just been sitting there in place nicely. Now I need some bolts to lift this engine out, and I always keep everything. So we have Sea-Doo parts here, more Sea-Doo, we have LS parts, barrel parts, and more barrel parts. So we'll grab a bolt from the LS box. Now I just need a bolt to put in the side of the block to lift this motor out. So that's a LS1 gearbox bolt. Should be completely fine to use. And we will go and screw that down in here somewhere. I can get in there as far back as possible, and then we'll find another spot on this side of the motor, probably right in here. Now usually we would have to pull the plenum off, but because I have the front of the car off, I should be able to just lift the engine up a bit and pull it out, instead of like going right up to clear the rad support. So, and also I should be able to leave the bonnet on too, so makes things a lot easier. Let's try and get this motor out. So close. Okay, I've just noticed the oil temp sensor and oil level sensor, and also the power steering is connected to the engine harness. So I'm just going to go and disconnect that real quick. It's been many years since I've pulled an engine out of a VF, so I'm just sitting on these engine mounts here on the steering rack. That's one. Oh, it's so close. There we go. A little bit of massaging. She's coming out. Halfway there, we are running out of room a little bit here, but I have done a few engines in the shed before. It is doable, especially without the front of the car on, so let's get this thing out of the way. Alright, I found a home for the engine for the time being. Now I think I will start pulling the panels off. I think I may leave this fender. I don't see the point in pulling it off, like all the inner guard's still attached. There's no dents, so they are the same as the HSV. The only difference is this is black, so I'll just swap that over and then remove this as well. Either way, I'm going to respray the entire car, but I just don't see the point in changing that. I may as well keep that good red guard for another car or potentially sell it. However, I will pull this guard off and maybe the bonnet. Still undecided. I mean, same with the bonnet. Do I really need to change it? Probably not. I'll sort of just figure it out as I go, but for now I will pull this off. And I've also noticed a little bit of damage in here where the wheel has pushed back and hit it, because this arm was snapped, and also the lower control arm was ripped out of the ball joint. And you can also see a little bit of damage on the K-frame here too. Damage the side skirt as well, but they will be coming off, swapping those for the SSVs, so that will be fine. And that's just attached to this guard, which is getting replaced anyway, so should be a good thing. But yeah, it'll be good to get this guard off and assess if there's any more damage, but I think we should be okay. Yeah, I need to get this side skirt off to get this fender off, so I need to pull this off. From memory, they are just clipped in. There we go. So I just had a couple of clips here, just pulled up on it. It's all clipped in here. That comes off. Now we can get to these clips, hold the side skirt on. Alright, I got the side skirt down enough to access these fender bolts, and then I'll take the rear wheel off to get the rest of the skirt off. And I'll take this off for now. I've just had a little bit of a clean up in the shed, so I could jack this car up and get the engine ready to pull out. I've also finished off getting the side skirts off the Calais and the rear wheels, both sides. So now we can leave this thing for a bit and get started on the SSV. So now we've got it all jacked up. I had to do a little bit of tidying up in the shed to be able to get to go back far enough so I can pull this motor out. We are pretty tight for space here, but it's doable. So let's get started on this, get this motor out. This should be pretty easy removal. We have no headers on here. There's no engine mount bolts. So it should be just undoing the cross member and basically just lifting it out. So it shouldn't take too long at all. So I'm just going to find somewhere to put these gearbox bolts into the head on either side so I can lift this motor out. Usually I find a spot on the back of the passenger head. That'll be one lift point. Just going to pull out this earth cable and put this bolt in there. So once again, like we did on the Calais, we need to remove all of this engine wiring harness. There will be one that goes into this fuse box. Alright, get that out of the way. Now I'm going to move this ECU out of the way because I don't want it to get damaged. And unplug it. So we have the purge line at the back here. This pops off, and then we have the 3/8 fuel hose. Now I'm going to get this 250 grunt strap ready to pull the motor out. Pretty well ready to lift out now. I've just got to go under and drop the gearbox mount bolts. Yeah, just a couple of bolts under there, same as the Calais. Just looking at that transmission pan and it is pretty damn dented. Alright, let's get this engine out. Should be ready to go. With any luck. Okay. Alright, we got the L77 out of the SSV. It's over here on the ground. It was a little bit of a challenge. I don't have a lot of real estate here, concrete floor wise, so a little bit of maneuvering to get that out. But it's out. It was very easy. It was only just sitting in there, so it made my life a lot easier. Now it's just a matter of just checking over things and what's different. From memory, the K-frames are the same. I'll double check between V6 and V8. Fuel lines, I did check, they are 3/8 on the SSV and also the Calais V6, so 3/8 feed and then a 5/16 purge. So they are the same, they're just in a different spot. I've got to swap the power harness for the alternator and starter motor. I'll just flip this around and show you guys. Power harness for the alternator. So this is all different between V6 and V8, so we'll swap that over. Go for a few things. Fuse box, everything's the same, but there probably will be a few fuses that will be different between V6 and V8. You have your left and right ignition banks and stuff like that. So we'll check all that out. As far as ABS, that should be all the same. I'll just have to reprogram the ABS module to the engine ECM. Now moving over to the motor, I don't know, I've never had this motor running, so I don't know whether it's good or not. It doesn't really bother me. I'm just going to chuck it in and hope for the best. Now I am going to leave it standard to get it registered, and then once it's registered I will either pull this motor out and build it, or I'll just build another motor and swap it out. So we'll work on that later, but for now it should be okay. I think there's a couple of coils that are broken, so I have to, well, there's 3 coils that are broken. Yeah, it's not going to stop it from running. They will still hold an ignition lead, but it's not ideal, so I'll have to get some new coils for it. So now we're just going to swap over the power harness for the alternator and starter motor. Put that into the Calais because it's different.
I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk, so I'm letting them talk. Gotta keep quiet, maneuver in silence, then let them in, chalk up their body, another one body, that's just how it go. I got some secrets, I'm shaking the...
So I'm just making sure everything's where it should be on the new motor. I'll just pull all these bolts out, make it nice and easy to go back in. Get the gasket off. Make sure there's nothing more in the exhaust ports. I might try and put the trans lines on too. I don't know why they've been pulled off, so we'll get those on now while the engine's out. Same thing, I'm just going to pull these ignition leads out of the way so they don't get damaged. I don't know if these are right or not. We'll see. Just want to... that is not right. It should not be like that. These should go underneath and bolt up to the sump here. So these must be off a different car. So they are not correct. Okay, well I actually took the trans lines off the original V6 motor and have got them on there, and they sit pretty well the same as V8 would. I don't know why I had the wrong trans lines, I just found them in the boot. But yeah, I'm going to have to make these work for now. They pretty well sit in the factory spot. I don't think it's exactly the same. I had to swap this bracket around, but they'll do for now. Eventually I'll end up running some braid lines and a transcooler anyway, so we'll have to work with what we got. And the other thing, I can't put the aircon compressor on because I'm missing the bracket that goes here. So the aircon was never on the car. The compressor was just in the boot. So that's unfortunate. I would like to put it all in and be done with it, but unfortunately I can't. So I'm not going to let it hold me up. I'm going to put the engine in anyway without it, and I'll have to put it in at a later date. So I think it's time to chuck this motor in now. Time to get this bad boy in the car. Well, we finally have the engine in the Calais. Now I've just gone and done up the engine mount bolts and also the transmission bolts underneath, so it's all in there secure. And now I'll continue on just plumbing it up. So pretty well the same procedure as pulling it apart, just all the ECU plugs, wiring it into the fuse box. The heater hoses, I'm going to change these for genuine clamps off the other motor because I don't like these clamps, they look shit. So we'll put the genuine ones back on there and also down here. And yeah, just continue on plumbing it up, put the headers on, and whatever else we need to fire this thing up. So let's go. And there we have it, just like factory, how it should be. have both the tail shafts. We have the SSV and the V6 Calais. Now you will notice that one is longer than the other. The shorter one is the V8 one, and they are also a little bit thicker here than they are here. Now the problem we have is I'm not going to change this rear cradle here on the ground. I'm going to wait until I have access to a hoist, and then I'll just drop it out and make it so much easier. So to get around that and to bolt that up is the pinion size. So this is a V8 rubber. It is a lot bigger than the V6, which means the V8 shaft won't bolt to the V6 pinion. So what I usually do is just split the shaft in the center, and we'll use the shorter front with the rears are the same, so from the center bearing they're the same length. So we'll use the V8 front to go onto the V8 gearbox, and then the V6 rear of the shaft. So that'll allow us to bolt the shaft in. We want to slide the V8 and V6 shaft together. There's a yellow mark here, there and there. Just to semi-balance it. Like, it's going to be way out now because of the two different shafts, but it's better than not lining it up at all. So now we can bolt this shaft into the car. So here we have the last piece of the puzzle, the exhaust, and I actually realised they are pretty well the same between V6 and V8. However, I just had to swap over the O2 sensors, the rear mufflers, and then I finished it off by just sliding it under the car and bolting it up. Okay, we're finally done. We got the motor in, everything is plumbed up, the exhaust is on, tail shaft, the whole lot is ready to go turnkey. I'm just charging the battery a little bit off the Jeep so I can do some programming. I need to link the ECM to the BCM and the rest of the car, make sure all the VINs match, and it should just fire up from there. The radiator, it's a little bit of a Frankenstein setup at the moment. We've got the V6 radiator in here. The V8 one I had for a VE, it's not for a VF, so had to run that. We got no radiator cap. I've just sort of filled it up as best I could and bled it through the heads. So that's only temporary, just so there's no trans fluid and shit going everywhere, and I can at least run it. So that's just sitting there. We also have the fuel line here. This is actually a V6 fuel line, so it's long enough to go across the engine. It does look quite messy, so I'm gonna change that. I'll make up a new one, make it all nice and neat, and then also hook up the purge. And also for the ignition leads, we have multicolour ignition leads because they're all broken, all the coils and stuff. So I just sort of put together what I can to get it going. It's Sunday, I can't get any parts, so let's see if this thing fires up after I do some programming. Alright, so I've just powered up the car. Now with the VF, to do programming on them, you hold down the ignition for I think 10 seconds or something, and that will make sure the ignition stays on while you're programming, otherwise it'll time out and you risk freaking ECMs and things like that. But initially, yeah, we have SRS fault. Now that's because we have no radiator support on there. What else do we have? A theft deterrent system, so that's your security. Changing all ESP fault. So we got a few faults there. Now we'll just see if we can sort these out. So we want to connect to the vehicle. So we have multiple different VINs. We need to make sure we select the correct VIN. So okay, we've got the VIN selected. So now we are just scanning all the modules for what faults we have. Okay, you can see a mountain of faults that we have here. So we will begin to program modules, and most of these should clear up. There will be a few from having no radiator support on the front. So I'm getting this error when I'm trying to link the security. It says they've got to email me, it takes 1 to 2 hours during business days. So it's not going to work doing it the correct way. So now I'm going to grab HP tuners and just disable bats so we can get this thing fired up. Okay, it's been a couple of days now. I still wasn't able to get it going. I tried HP tuners, disabling the bats, and that wasn't enough to get it going. I was able to crank it, but I had no fuel pump. So I contacted support, and they have added the additional security information that I need to use the Holden software to program the ECUs. So now I've got that going, it's working. So we have to wait 11 minutes to do the VIN security link, and then we have to wait another 10 minutes to do the ECM linking. So yeah, we just got the cruiser here hooked up, so the battery doesn't go flat, because it is crucial that you have above 12 volts for these programming, and you know, if the battery goes flat, you can risk damaging or bricking ECUs. So we'll wait for that, and then hopefully this thing fires up. Now I could have swapped over all of the ECMs from the other car, and I really don't want to have to do that, because I have to pull the console out, swap SRS module, ABS module, TDM, like all of the modules from one car to another. And if we can get around that by just linking a couple of ECUs, well, I'm just going to do that, because it's so much better. Now I did also swap the accelerator pedal with the SS one, because on VEs and VZs the pedal is actually different between V6 and V8, so I thought I may as well just swap that. It's only 1 bolt, so very easy to change. Okay, we run into more problems with the conversion. So I didn't realize that the fuel pump control module, center chassis control module is actually different. And long story short, to get that working properly, you have to swap the entire chassis harness. So that's like strip the entire car, the whole wiring harness from the back of the car all the way to the engine bay. That has to be changed, but I spent the last couple of days on and off working out how to get around that. It's been a lot of diagrams, took me a while to get a hold of these. Got the full manual if anyone wants it. So basically diagrams for both modules. Now the module goes in the back here underneath the battery tray. So this is the V8 one and this is the V6 one. Now the plug is completely different, and that's your V8 plug. So what I ended up doing, I didn't really want to, but it was kind of the only way around it. I had to cut the plug off and join the V8 one on. So I've just used the Deutsch plug-in and QC connector. Should be okay. And then this needs to run down to the fuel tank, to the fuel pressure sensor. So that's the only fault I have regarding the center chassis control module now. So I finally got it all coded up. I couldn't code it until I did that. So I've coded and flashed all the modules. I flashed the BCM, the engine ECU, the ABS module, and the CCM as well. They're all flashed, everything's VIN security linked, so we should be ready to turnkey. So this is another part I had to do some modifications to. So this is where the engine harness connects into the chassis harness. So all of this would have had to be changed if I went that route. And it's not an issue, but I'm kind of short for space. So, and I wanted to try and work out how this all works, because there will probably be future conversions, so we might be able to make something up that works a bit better. But now I know how it all works, so I've got to join this wire properly. I just connected it on there. I didn't want to cut that pin off in case it didn't work. So that's got to be sorted. And then underneath the seat is where I've joined in the CAN bus. So I've just got these two Deutsch pins here. Now that is for the CAN bus for the fuel pump control module. So I've just got to tidy that up. That is where I've done my join. I can do another video on this, because there's probably a lot of people that are going to want to know how to do this, because I looked everywhere online. I couldn't find any information about doing a V6 to V8 conversion regarding the fuel pump control module. So I think I'll just do a separate video for that. Help those guys out. No word of a lie, this fuel pump control module, center chassis module, has taken longer than it was for me to do the entire engine conversion. So that's just the way wiring is. You don't have diagrams, you got to figure out how it all works, get hold of those diagrams and just trace them all through. But anyway, it's finally time to see this thing runs. I haven't started it yet. I've literally just finished coding and going through all the faults, so we should be ready to go. So let's hit the key and see what happens. Okay, we have 11.5 volts, so hopefully she fires up. Let's go. Ooh, little rattly. What do we got? Okay, we still have an engine light because I need to do crank learn, but it is a little bit rattly, but it also has been sitting for a long time, so hopefully that clears up. We have no oil leaks, that's a good sign. Yeah, I would say that'll clear up after a few minutes. It has been sitting for a very long time, so she is running. Let's go. There you go. No more rattles. We just need a little bit of oil pressure to the lifters. She is a good thing. I also don't have the MAF on as well. A little bit of smoke coming off the exhaust, but that's all right. And the other thing I did is, because I was putting the car back on the ground, I didn't want to have to jack it up again, put the side skirts on, and when the side skirts are on, you can't get to the fender bolts. So I just whacked the fender on, both side skirts. They're sort of just sitting on there with a couple of clips because they need to be pulled back off to paint anyway, but that is why they are on, and it's obviously on the ground now with the wheels on. But she is running. How good. Alright guys, we'll have to cut it here. This video is getting far too long, so we'll leave it at that. But she is running. That is a V6 to V8 conversion. Realistically, it probably took me 2 full days. I've been on and off. The weather's been crazy. It's pissing down with rain. But yeah, probably 2 full days going hard at it, and the conversion's pretty well done. So yeah, anyway, if you made it this far, thanks for watching, and be sure to stick around for the next video on the VF build. Cheers.